Game
Game
5
of the NBA Finals, where the Thunder take a 3-2 lead, where it's pretty well documented that I don't know the actual. I mean, teams that take the 3-2 lead win the series. Like
86% of the
thank
time.
you. Not I was gonna say a number like 78%, but 86% of the time. So it's a crucial game to grab. It's in OKC. I feel like we were kind of all over it in terms of their defense at the end of Game 4 carried over into Game 5. My two biggest takeaways overall is the stars of OKC showing up and getting the job done with Jalen Williams dropping 40. Was that a career high for him?
I do not know, but it is. He is now one of 4 players to ever score 40 points in an NBA Finals game.
Just an unbelievable
one of 4.
performance from him. I saw he's only scored above 35 twice in his career. So regardless, one of his best performances ever, and he does it on the biggest stage. They couldn't guard him. He was too strong downhill for Neesmith and such.
No, I'm missing a stat with that. It might be age dependent on that. It might be. I think it's 25 or younger.
That would make a lot more sense.
Russell Westbrook, Kyrie, J-Dub, and one other. Go ahead, Jack.
But yeah, anyway, just him with 40, and Shea scores over 30. I don't remember his exact number.
31.
31, thank you. It was just too much for Indiana. And then the other big storyline is the disappearance of Tyrese Halliburton, which he's pretty clearly injured, which then the debate comes up of, at that point, how much you hold him responsible. Because if you're playing while injured, there's still some onus on you to play well, right? Like,
100%.
If you're really that injured, then we just need you to sit on the bench. Because honestly, T.J. McConnell was way, way more impactful than Tyrese Halliburton was Monday night. And so if Tyrese is going to be that bad, I would just rather have TJ on the court. TJ was actually phenomenal. He sparked a rally to bring the Pacers within 2. That little midi turnaround thing he does is sweet. The tough and one he hits to end the third quarter was just smooth. He's a ball player, and it's kind of hard to watch him, and then he goes to the bench, and then you watch Halliburton not be aggressive like that. And it's hard to not get a little frustrated, injury aside. But I'll kick to you first, JP. Your thoughts on Tyrese initially, or if you want to go somewhere else,
I want to start with TJ because he plays 6 minutes in the third quarter, and he is responsible for 17 points in those 6 minutes. For context, Halliburton was responsible for, I believe, 18 or 19 points the entire game.
Yeah.
So 6 minutes in the third quarter versus 34 minutes for Tyrese.
I mean, Tyrese didn't hit a field goal.
That is the big one for Tyrese. It is no field goal make. It is, as far as I know, and as far as the people in media that I've heard talk about it since they got the day to talk about it before we did, it is the worst game in a finals by a superstar or best player on a team ever.
He's the only NBA All-Star to not score a field goal in a finals game, I believe.
Correct. It is unprecedented, this level of poor play. And I do want to say, for one, and you can bring up those tweets if you got them loaded there, this injury it's not new. Very trusted source, Dr. Brian Suterer, YouTube sports doctor, who is very, very good at his job.
He's the best guy on social media.
Yes,
for this.
He reported this. It was obviously reported by Shams before Game 3 that Tyrese was dealing with, quote, a little
lower leg thing.
Lower leg thing, which is a brilliant description. Well, that's probably what he got, and he just direct quoted it. But obviously, Dr. Brian Suterer points out that that's not tape for an ankle injury. This is a potential tape for an Achilles injury, which in turn is a left calf injury, which is exactly what happened to him. So I do want to say, first of all, this injury is not new to Tyrese in this series. I would assume it's not new to him throughout the postseason. And for me, that does not excuse, because of that, it does not excuse his poor play and having the worst game in a finals for the best player on a team ever. And I get it that, injuries can get worse, and he clearly aggravated it during the game. But if that's the case, it still doesn't matter. You cannot attempt 6 shots. I don't care if you're a pass first point guard. You cannot attempt 6 shots as the best player on a team. And I do want to say that even with his injury, the way he played in Game 5 was, outside of the spurt at the end of Game 1 and the good Game 3, exactly how he played the entire series.
Sure.
Lethargic, not looking to score, passing too much, not being aggressive, not looking for his moment, just taking what the defense gave him, which has been pass the ball the entire time. And so I don't feel like we can just say, okay, he was hurt, because he played like this. He's played like this the entire series. And credit to OKC. They have taken away some things from him and not allowed him to get easy baskets. But I do think what the injury hurt him a ton was it took away his best move, which is just blow by the guy and get to the rim.
Yeah.
He clearly was not at the speed that he needed to be to get past OKC defenders in Game 5, which takes away his ability to get to the rim and get easy layups. And he's a brilliant finisher when he gets there. And since that was taken away, everything that is a part of his game is taken away, because he doesn't have a go-to shot.
No.
He literally does not have a go-to shot whatsoever. He likes to do the step-back three, but it's almost like he's a rec player that likes to do the step-back three because Luka and Jalen Brunson and all those guys do it.
It's not his move.
It's not his move. It looks cool to do a step-back three instead of just a standstill three over the top of the guy.
Yeah.
That's how it feels when you watch Tyrese do that. So for him to play like that it's just, in my opinion, unacceptable as a gold medalist, as an all-star, as a guy who we're calling a superstar, and for a guy that has literally 13 for 15, and I don't know if the stats changed because I can't recall if he took a shot to tie or take the lead inside 2 minutes. But 13 for 15 this season to tie or take the lead inside of 2 minutes. Off the charts, unprecedented. No one's been even close to that percentage, and certainly not with that volume. Shoot the damn ball. I don't care if you're hurt. Find a spot to get a shot up, because you clearly are more than capable for this moment. You've shown that. You showed that in Game 1 of this series. You showed that in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. You showed that in Game 1 of the semifinals. You showed that in the games in the Milwaukee series. You are capable of taking over a game with or without your best move of getting to the rim. You can hit the big shots. You have to take them. 6 field goal attempts is unacceptable for the best player on a team in the finals.
Yeah, I mean, 2 things I'll add on / just kind of reinforce. You threw out the word superstar a lot, which I think is fair for Tyrese Halliburton. But it's just like, if you want to be considered a superstar, there's kind of a higher set of standards where you don't really get the injury pass, right? Superstars don't get the injury pass. If you're out there playing, you have to play well. And the second point is, especially second half of Game 5, I saw a guy who didn't really look like he wanted the ball, or didn't talk about, he can hit the big shot. Someone that didn't want to take the big shots. To me, it looked like he passed up a couple open threes and would just kind of swing it to Siakam in the corner or Nembhard in the corner. And he wasn't even kicking or swinging to someone more open. They were like, someone was already on them. He just did not want the ball.
ESPN had 40 seconds of B-roll of him doing exactly that, of just passing it when he got it on the perimeter.
And I think that's my biggest annoyance, is if you are that guy that we've said you are, and I personally think he is, you have to take control. You have to be the best player on your team, because you are in the finals. And the mentality required to be that kind of player just wasn't there in Game 5, and that's what really frustrates me. So, anything you want to add? Did you watch that game, Sanders?
I did, and yeah, it was a very passive Indiana offense, I felt like. So, I would agree with that kind of stuff.
Which, I mean, we've talked a lot about the Pacers' offense, and a lot of it is, I mean, the Thunder's played a phenomenal defensive game, and especially with the fact that Tyrese doesn't want to take these shots, I think it makes it even easier to play in his passing lanes and take away his passing options, which is really his best weapon. But they jumped multiple passing lanes of his. There were a couple times him and Nembhard weren't on the same page, or him and Nesmith. I forget whoever threw the ball back court on the Case and Wallace fast break layup, but basically Halliburton tried to cut up court and they just threw it backwards, stuff like that. But I mean, OKC was just up all in their face on Monday, and that does make it very difficult, but you still have to be better. I mean, the starting backcourt combined for 11 points for the Pacers.
Yeah, OKC's defense, you started with it when we first started talking about Game 5, was the difference in the game. Obviously, J-Dub and Shea were brilliant, but Indiana turns it over 22 times. One thing we talked about after Game 4, predicting Game 5, was I felt that there just wasn't something that Indiana could do to set the tone outside of just shoot the ball well in the first quarter. I felt that OKC could immediately just push the pressure on them, and they did that. They hold Indiana to 22 points in the first quarter, and they're able to do that again in the fourth quarter. The big difference between this one and Game 1, which was the reason Indiana didn't make the comeback that they did in Game 1, because remember, this is a 2-point game at a pivotal part in Game 5, and then OKC makes the run, and they're up by 15 or so. It's the points off turnovers. OKC, I believe, had, I think it was 11 in Game 1. Here in Game 5, they had 32. So these turnovers that they're forcing are producing points for OKC, and that, in my opinion, was the difference in the game outside of Shea and J-Dub. And to go to them, for one, I do not want to undermine how terrific Jalen Williams was. And he was asked about this in the post-game press conference. He was basically asked, do you feel like this game is a game that is going to be remembered forever? And is this something you're always going to look back on? And his answer was he felt that in this moment in time, it was just another game. Mm-hmm. And that maybe in a couple years, I'll look back on and think, yeah, that was pretty damn cool. And for one, holy crap, that is so cool. You just scored, for one, not for one, for two, you scored 40 points in a finals game under the age of 25. Only 4 guys have ever done that ever. 40 points in a finals game is remarkable. It is to give context for NBA history and for context of the NBA, it's unbelievably high on the pedestal. It is something that it's so hard to do. And to do it in Game 5, to take a 3-2 series lead when the series hangs in the balance, and for him, the biggest question coming into this postseason was, can he produce in the playoffs? Because he was terrible last postseason. He averages 17 a game. He's a large reason they lose the Dallas series to Luka. He was terrific in Game 5, and he was also terrific in Game 7 against Denver, and terrific in Game 4 against Minnesota. This guy has shown up, and he has quickly vaulted himself into, okay, he's just another superstar, too. He's not just the Robin. This guy is Batman himself as well, to go along with Shea. And you can't help but, think about, for one, Shea has already developed into MVP. J-Dub, it looks like, could be on that same kind of level. And then Chet he basically just finished his second season, and we think the sky is the limit for him. This is a dangerous trio.
Sure.
And they are blossoming in front of our eyes. And what I love, for me, being a Thunder guy, is that this team is going to be able to do that and win a championship, because we saw this with OKC before with Kevin Durant, Westbrook, and Harden, and then they let Harden go in the offseason, and then Westbrook and KD run it back a couple years, but it was just never the same. And I hope that for OKC's case and for that fan base's case, this is the start of something magical.
Yeah. For those watching, my hands just went up because I got the real notification that Acuna hit a home run in the bottom of the first to give the Braves a 1-0 lead.
Last lead of the day.
Why they are pitching to him when Eli White is batting behind him, I don't know, but they are. Yeah, it's just a phenomenal game from Jalen Williams. I may push back a little bit on the Chet piece because I honestly don't think Chet has had a phenomenal playoffs. But the counter to that, he's not played a ton of games. There's a lot of growth. So I'm not like
he played, I believe, 25 to 30 games this season.
Yeah, so I'm not dogging on him. I just we'll wait and see about the trio. The last kind of piece of the puzzle I think for OKC in this game was the bench hitting threes. Shout out to Lou Dort is shooting like 57% from three in the finals, making me and JP eat crow, I guess. Though I'm gonna say it regardless of how well he's shooting. Every time he shoots a three, I'm like. I still don't really want him shooting threes, but he's knocking them down, so shout out to him.
Agreed, 100%.
Wiggins hits 4 threes. I think Cason Wallace hit
4.
4-7 from Wiggins.
Yeah, 4 for 7 for Wiggins.
Oh, thank you. Sorry,
yeah.
my bad.
You're good.
But that's just huge. We've talked about it multiple times. Bench players play better at home, but to have these guys come in and knock down the threes when Jalen Williams and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, drawing all this pressure and schemes for that when they score phenomenally in ISO, but when they do get stopped, for them to then kick it out when help comes or whatnot, and for them to just constantly knock down threes is pretty debilitating and morale breaking for the Pacers. So I just shout out them because that's kind of been one of their weaknesses as a team at times this year is they can't hit the threes that they need to hit. The largely open ones, but they did it in a big way Monday night. So.
Yeah, they're not 3-point shooters. They're
No.
defenders first. It's not 3 and D. They are D and 3. Is how I would classify that. And I want to give myself a ton of credit because I called this. I felt like OKC was going to punch the Pacers in the mouth with defense, and I knew that the role players were going to shoot better at home as compared to how they did in Game 4, and I nailed both of those. The last point I really want to make is SGA has been terrific in this finals, and I also hope that we don't lose that, and the fact that yes, a lot of the people are going to say, which I hate, pure stupidity. Oh, the Pacers were outmatched. Oh, they just weren't good enough to play this level of team. Well, for one, I don't feel like you should have to blow out the Pacers candle to be able to talk positively about the Thunder. And for two, people were not saying that when the Pacers won Game 1. People were not saying that when the Pacers won Game 3. People were not feeling that throughout Game 4. This has been a terrific series. These are two really good teams. And while there's a huge record discrepancy, these two teams are pretty well matched. And Shai has been terrific, in the finals. And that is, for a guy playing in his first finals ever, he has lived up to the MVP that he won this season. And that is, again, something that, in the context of NBA history, has to be remembered forever and should be celebrated. And for one, I keep saying for one. I want to say also.
For another thing. That's what you can start saying.
Therefore, although that doesn't apply. I'm happy that, at least I haven't seen it, the foul baiting has kind of gone away a little bit. Because Shai has been terrific, and he's hit big-time shots throughout the series.
Yeah.
In the mid-range, from the three-point. He gets to the rim whenever he wants. The only thing I've really seen is everyone's complaining, thinking he's pushing off. But he's not extending his arm. He's hitting the chicken wing tech.
Yeah.
And he's creating his space that way.
Yeah, sure.
He's been terrific. He's going to end up averaging 30-plus points in a finals series, which is going to go down in NBA history, and I would love for that to be celebrated as well, because that is remarkable for a guy in his first finals ever. And to, we've seen it throughout history that just because you won the MVP in the season, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to also play well in the playoffs. You think about Karl Malone wins the MVP, but then is poor against the Bulls in the finals. Y'all remember that, of course.
Yeah, 100%.
But I think more recently, like Steph Curry wins the MVP, and then they get 3-1'd on
Embiid
by the Cavs. Embiid has not.
Well, injuries played a factor
in the
there
playoffs with his MVP. Jokic last season So that's also kind of a little bit unprecedented.
Sure.
Or goes against precedent that an MVP were to play this well, especially in his first final. So I just want that to be celebrated.
I think it's a great point. I mean, we talked earlier about Chris Broussard changing up his pick 2 times, and it feels similar in this way of like people came into the series and were like, Pacers don't really belong. It's been a nice run, and then all of a sudden they're up 2-1, and everyone's like, oh, this is actually just an elite team like the Thunder, and so now you can't really switch back and be like, oh, never mind, like they aren't. And talking about their record discrepancy, it's because the Pacers started the season 15-20, and then found a groove and have played great ball since then. So I mean that drags the record down because Tyrese started the season terribly, and they were trying to figure some things out. But since they've hit their stride, they've been ratings wise, they've been a top elite team in the league. So I agree. It's I don't know. I always want to be the person that celebrates the winners more than I dog on the losers, right? Because it's so hard to win the NBA Finals. I don't care really who you played, to be honest. You got there, you got it done, and that should be celebrated. So, I have Thunder winning this game. I think I probably have them winning regardless. I know it's in Indianapolis, but in light of Tyrese's injury / his kind of subpar play this finals, I just feel like OKC smells blood in the water, and that's not good news for a team playing OKC. I think it'll be more of the same. Great defense, Shea and J-Dub getting it done. So I got OKC in 6.
I will be picking the Pacers because I think the benefits of picking them to win and being right outweigh the negatives of picking.
You're fading, basically.
Yeah, like, okay, so what? If the Thunder win and I was wrong, like, who cares? But if I keep picking the Pacers and they do this, like, come on.
Sure.
Turn up.
We know what JP's picking.
Yeah.
He already told us. So
yes, I'm picking OKC, but I feel part of it's fandom at this point, but I feel more nervous about Game 6 than I thought I was going to, even with the Tyrese Halliburton injury. I think keys to the game, like the Thunder are not going to get the same shooting performance they got out of their role players. At the same time, though, I don't expect them to only hit 3 threes as a team.
yeah.
So I expect some middle ground there. But the Thunder are going to need Chet, which Chet hasn't done it the entire postseason. So let's not call Chet. They're going to need J-Dub to play excellent again. He's going to have to score 25-plus again. Shea's going to have to get his usual 30. And then they need another guy to have at least double-digit scoring because
I think we'll get another good Caruso game here.
I would hope so because he was not really great in Game 5. The role players were playing too well for him to, like Casey Wallace and Aaron Wiggins were shooting too well for them to really give Caruso all of that run. On the Pacers side, if they're going to win this, like, for one, I think Halliburton does have to play because he's good enough passing. I don't think he has to be aggressive even with the injury. But I think you've got to find some spots. And then you're going to have to get, obviously, good minutes out of T.J. McConnell because Halliburton's down a little bit. But someone is going to have to produce on top of Siakam being good. And it was something in Game 5, like, they were essentially asking Obi Toppin to be like Naz Reid. And they kind of have this entire series where it's like Obi Toppin is like kind of like our second option to score outside of Siakam in a lot of like clutch minutes, which for me, super surprising. Did not expect that to be the way this series is played out. But that's how it was in Game 5. Like Obi Toppin was shooting like, and he has throughout. In Game 4, he hits big threes. In Game 3, he did too. But he's been shooting a ton of threes in big moments. So they're going to need Obi Toppin to be good in those big moments as well. That's going to be an interesting question. They're going to rely on their home crowd a ton. They're going to play with a ton of desperation. Now, they do have an advantage there where they haven't used their desperation game yet.
True.
They have not used it yet, unless you want to say Game 1 was. But they didn't play Game 1 like it was. So I think I think it's a coin flip, which is crazy. That's not how I felt after Game 5. But now that I've sat here and thought on it, which is what I love about the finals, some people hate the days in between, but the days in between get you thinking about so much more and diving so much deeper. I think there's a chance the Pacers win this, but give me the Thunder.
All right.
I like it.